Good morning. I'm Stacy Martin with Keller Williams Realty and the Martin DreamToHOME Team. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Real Estate Scoop and Coffee with Stacy. And today we're discussing vacation and second homes. So as you may or may not know, there are lots of opportunities in any market. And when real estate markets shift, it creates opportunities. And as rates are historically low right now, it's a great time to buy, and that can be in any area. It can be an investment, it can be your first home, it can be a second home, a vacation home. So we just thought we'd touch on that today as our topic. My husband, Ed Martin, is joining us today. He is with KW Commercial, our commercial division, and he supports us in DC, Virginia, and Maryland. And as well, he's a business broker. So if someone has a business to sell, he can be the one to help them evaluate and work on that. So welcome, Ed.
Good morning. Thank you.
Many of you have probably met Ed on some of our other calls, but again, we just wanted to talk a little bit about vacation and second homes today with you all. So one of the considerations in that is deciding where you want to live as far as a second home. So I say live, but some people do decide that it's a place that they want to live later. Maybe they're buying that home because it's a home they're going to be retiring to or something like that in the future. So location can be a big thing. I'm just going to go over some of those line items quickly, and we can discuss them as we go. And if anyone has any questions, absolutely just feel free to jump in and ask us, and we will answer questions at the end as well. So again, location, figuring out what location might work for you. So Ed, what comments do you have about location? You want to jump into?
Yeah, so location, you really have to think about what your planned, what your wishes, what your desires, what your family is looking for. So you have to consider, are you looking for a winter vacation or a second home or vacation home? Or are you looking more for a summer? And that's going to affect the geography. Are you going to want to be able to drive there? Are you going to have to get on a plane to go visit it? Are you going to want it possibly close to where your teenage children are going to college or about to go to college? You have to think about factors that really affect you personally. And there's different considerations for each. Obviously, if you're going to look more in a beach area, particularly on the eastern seaboard, you've got to think about things like flood insurance and wind insurance for hurricanes. So we've got to look at the factors for that geography as well.
Right. And so type of home, what do you all like to do? If you are a family that likes to go to the lake, if you're a family that likes to go to the beach, if you're a family that likes to go to the mountains, right? There's lots of different options there. So thinking through where you do spend your time. I know a lot of people go on vacation to the same place and I'll hear, well, we've been going to the same place for 18 years, something like that. And, they could have bought a home by now. So, and, maybe made money off of it by renting it or, being able to use it being able to use it themselves as part of their investment, right?
Definitely. So, and then you have to consider how are you going to finance the home. And so we'll talk about in a little more depth a little bit later what the factors are and whether something's a second home versus an investment property.
Right, and things that go along with that are, the different types of insurance you might need. I know that if you're in a place like, say, a beach town, you might need extra flood insurance, wind and hurricane type insurance. Make sure that all of those things are covered. I'm sure if you're working with a lender that they'll make sure that that's discussed with you and that you get all of those things set up before you go ahead and close on your property.
Definitely. And another thing is you should consider hiring someone to represent your interests, a local expert wherever you're looking. So the temptation sometimes we see with buyers is to dream house hunt on Zillow. Wrong with that, but you should try to bring somebody onto your team that knows that market, that represents you and not necessarily the investors that own the homes that you're looking at buying. And so they can help educate you and help you qualify properties. Plus, they're in the area and they can represent your interests while you're looking remotely. And then, of course, meet you when you come into town.
And something else that happens quite often, not just second homes, but people will be out and about and see a sign and call the sign. And that's fine if that's what that individual chooses to do, but it's in your best interest to have your own representation, which we can talk more about that as well, either on or off this particular call today. You can always reach us to talk more about that. But in general, if you do want to specifically hone in on an area that you know your family wants to make a purchase or potentially think about investigating making a purchase, then definitely give us a call, because we have partners all over the area, all over the nation, even the world. We are worldwide at KW. So we want to make sure that we are connecting you with someone that we either know, or we've picked a few different people and we've interviewed them ahead of time for you to make sure they're capable of handling your needs. And then we go ahead and refer those folks to you. And then you certainly can interview them and talk through, which individual that you connect with and like to work with in that particular area where your family's looking to buy.
Another factor I think of the benefit of having a buyer's agent in the area helping you is you don't live there. You don't know the area. You don't know what's happened. You don't know if Hurricane Agnes wiped out this street 10 years ago and it's been rebuilt. So, having somebody that's more familiar with the area that's on your team, I've got to say, is paramount to your second home search.
And you might still say, it's okay, I like it, I want to buy it anyway, but it's good to have the knowledge.
Indeed.
So one of the things is rental income to think about. Some people might be able to purchase the home outright. Some people might be able to get the mortgage and pay the mortgage on the second home and not worry about having any rental income. But other people are looking for it as an investment. And what they're doing is potentially renting out the home when they're not able to be there. So most people have busy lives, but still want to enjoy their property, several weeks, maybe even months, a year, but they need to have some rental income coming in. So that can help offset your expenses by renting it out. And you can do that a variety of ways. You can do Airbnb, you can get a property management company or someone local that can help you rent out your property, that type of thing. So what are other things you've seen, Ed?
Yeah, I'd say first and foremost, you should really have an accountant, a tax consultant, CPA that helps you understand what the ramifications and possibilities are for your next steps with this venture. Because even though we're experienced and experts in vacation home and second home purchasing and consulting, there's going to be an impact to you personally, and whatever your tax situation, you're going to have some consequences to it that really need some advisory from that individual you trust before you make your decisions.
Right. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit, Ed. What should you do as far as planning this whole thing? Where should we start? Let's do a roadmap.
Yeah. So the first thing, I'll just pop something up that Stacy uses on a regular basis to consult with people. It looks like you've disabled screen sharing.
All right. I'm sorry, Ed, I don't know how to help you share it.
Okay, that's all right. So we have a flow chart that we help our buying customers, whether it's their primary home or their secondary home, work through. So the first thing is you want to find a realtor you can trust. You want to work with that realtor to analyze your needs. And I think with any venture that is an investment of your time and money, you really want to start out with considering what your goals are. So perhaps your goals are you want a vacation home that you want to visit on weekends, holidays, or in the summer. Or perhaps you want to eventually live in that home when you retire, or possibly pass it on to your children. Owning a second home may come with perks like potential tax write-offs, but it depends on how you're going to use it. So a second home for vacations is very different from an investment property you buy to generate income. And so that difference between those can affect your finances. It's also going to affect the taxes you owe on the property. So we think about a second home, you're going to get better mortgage rates if you're going to finance, and the requirements for getting those mortgage rates are specific, but you're not going to get the tax write-offs that you would from an investment property. So you have to think about, is depreciation is important? Are you looking to, are your goals more equity-based, cash flow-based, or quiet enjoyment-based? And you have to think about that. And then secondly, you really need to run the numbers with your CPA. So what kind of down payment are you going to need? So many investment properties require a 20% down, whereas a second home, you might be able to do a 10% down. So you want to look and say, do you have stable income and cash reserve for taking on this venture? Keep in mind that when you buy a second home, whether it's a vacation property for private enjoyment or an investment property, you've got to factor in the expenses as well. So it's not just the sales price and closing. You're not done there. There's property taxes, there's insurance, there's maintenance expenses. We suggest to all our clients that they put money aside every year for a deferred maintenance fund, particularly if you're in an area that might have weather considerations, whether it be snow in the Northeast or in the mountains, or the beach, or closer to the hurricane zone. You also want to factor in furnishing. So sometimes second homes or vacations homes do come furnished. So that helps you a little bit with your upfront costs, but they may not. And you may need to factor in that you're going to need to have adequate furniture in that property right off the bat. So you need to put some money aside for that. And then if you're going to have any form of rental income stream from it, you have to consider what numbers you're going to have as far as property management fees. So thinking about running the numbers before you get too deep into which path you're going is very important. Again, like I said earlier, you want to consult a tax professional for guidance on how this is going to affect your taxes, since you may be eligible for mortgage interest deductions, or in the case of an investment property, you may be eligible for depreciation deductions on that investment property. And then you want to talk to your lender. And of course, the agent that helps you and represents you, that is part of your team, can usually offer a suite of lenders that work in the geography you're looking for. And they're going to help you determine basically what's your debt to income ratio. Second home classification for a mortgage requires generally a 36% or less debt to income ratio on your monthly pre-tax income. And then you also want to look at what is this going to mean to you for the rest of your tax considerations. So a professional loan officer is going to help you with the costs of purchasing a second home and what your available loan options. But again, you got to start with your goals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And make sure that this might seem obvious, but you might find something that sounds like a good deal, but make sure you go and you visit there, maybe even different times of the year. Maybe you've been to a place once, that probably isn't the time to make a purchase yet. You might want to dig a little bit deeper, find out about the community and, what's there, what the restrictions are. Maybe if there's a condo fee, maybe there's a community fee, maybe there's things that you thought were included that aren't included. Maybe you thought you had access to a lake or to a beach that you don't. So those are all important things to make sure you're scouting out and finding out. And a lot of times, both the local lender, the local mortgage lender and the real estate agent know, they live and work in that environment. So they might have answers to what you're looking for. So definitely utilize and leverage those relationships as you build them and move through the process before you make a decision.
Absolutely. Another consideration too is for second homes, your lender is going to tell you that you got to be a certain distance away from your primary residence. So 50 miles is the rule of thumb. And you have to
I
think
know.
about, is that going to be an area that you want to travel to for that second home?
Right. And so we touched on it earlier. What's the cost of getting there, right? So it's just like if you are in, the DC metropolitan area and you say, oh, I don't want to pay the prices of living in Arlington, let's say, but you say, oh, maybe I'd like to live out in Leesburg. Well, that's great. How much is it costing you to get on the Greenway? How much is it costing you in time and gas, wear and tear on your car, as opposed to living in Arlington and paying that higher price and deducting your mortgage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just to think about that in general, and then think about if you bought a place in Colorado, it's kind of hard to drive there on the weekend, right? So it might be the most awesome place and the place you've dreamed of, and maybe you want to retire there one day, but it's going to be harder to get there, as opposed to maybe you just want to buy a place in Bethany and you know that you can pop up there for the weekend, or maybe your family can go early, but you have to work. And so you just want to tag along the last, couple days of the weekend at the end. And maybe the rest of your family's there for part of the weekend, you join them when they're already there vacationing. So it's something definitely to think about. So you need to think about your lifestyle and what works best for you. If you have to get on a plane and you don't like to travel separately, then it's going to be hard to just pop in for a weekend type of thing. So
Definitely. So one question I hear regularly is, if we're going to go with the path of a investment property, Stacy and I talked briefly about property managers, is should we go with a property manager or should we do Airbnb? And Airbnb is something that has popped up the last few years as an option. So certainly Airbnb offers you something that many property management companies don't, which is short-term rentals. The focus there is maybe somebody coming in for a weekend or for something less than a week and looking for space that's close to a certain location, possibly a downtown location, et cetera. And Airbnb can be an attractive path for vacationers. So if it gives you some flexibility on your cash flow, also allows you to charge variable nightly rates. And of course, as a result of that variable nightly rates and short-term rentals, you could have more frequent turnover. So you also should talk to your CPA, your tax professional, about what the ramifications are for Airbnb. So Airbnb has some hidden costs that you need to factor in. So if you're renting your property on Airbnb, you may be subject to self-employment taxes on the money you earn. So if you rent the property using a traditional model or property management company, you'll have a easier path to benefit from real estate tax breaks like depreciations. So you have to think about these factors. How are you taking possession of the home? And then with Airbnb, you need to make sure you partner with someone, if you don't live in the area, that can be your eyes and ears to help you with the turnover. Perhaps that's a local family member, perhaps that's a contract cleaning service, whatever it might need to be. So Airbnb can be a path. Sometimes people will use Airbnb as their supplemental service for second home, as opposed to going with an all-out vacation home. But you want to realize that you are renting to strangers and you don't have the oversight. So you're taking on a little bit more risk that you do with a traditional property manager that knows your property intimately.
mm-hmm. And if you don't have a property manager and you do have an issue, you have a broken appliance or a toilet or something else that isn't working, just knowing who to call for that, having somebody there to make sure that your guest doesn't have their stay interrupted.
That's right. That's right. So we generally apply the rule of thumb: if you're going to treat it like an investment property and it's in an area where people go for weekly rentals, property management is probably a better path. Obviously, everyone has their own goals, but just because they're going to be able to be your eyes and ears and take care of your property, and it's money well spent to have them as your paid partner. If you're going to be renting something out that's a little closer to home, you're going to be able to get there quickly. You want to take on variable nightly rates and short-term rentals, then Airbnb might be a better fit for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What are things that you would warn people about as far as insurance or putting this in a type of trust or an LLC, or do you keep it in your own name, or what are some options?
Yeah, so you should definitely talk to your lender and your tax accountant about what are the possibilities. If you have the legal ability to take title in an LLC, you should, because that actually gives you a layer of protection from things that might happen with the property.
Mm-hmm.
So why I said you should talk to your lender and your tax accountant is if you are using a mortgage that's Fannie or Freddie backed, which most mortgages are, the title needs to be in the same name as the lender. I mean, as the loan documents. So what that means is if you've got a loan personally for a property, if it's a Fannie or Freddie Mac mortgage, you technically can't take title legally in an LLC. Now, some people do that and get away with it, and obviously, you need to make sure that the insurance is factored in appropriately, that the right entities receive the proceeds if anything wrong happens to the house. Mm-hmm. But you have to think about that. But if you can get away with it, I always recommend taking possession in an LLC or a trust, some kind of entity that separates you personally from the real estate.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, popular places around this area that people like to escape to, so to speak, are some of the lakes in the area: Lake Anna, Smith Mountain Lake, the Shenandoah River. Some people like going north to the beaches, to Ocean City, even Cape May, Rehoboth, Dewey, that area. And some like to go more south to OBX, Outer Banks, Hatteras, Myrtle Beach. And we're even seeing some people buying second homes further down in Florida and that area. But, you know, too, to think about maybe buying a home, another home now, and even renting it out, maybe not even using it for vacation, just buying it for an investment, just to have as a place that is in an area that you might want to retire to at some point in the future. You never know. We battle that around between us personally a lot, deciding where we would want to retire to or be in later years, and we're still not sure. So that's yet to come. But at the end of the day, we just wanted to open your minds and eyes to the idea of an investment. It could be just an investment right here in the area where you live, but it could be an investment in another area, and we're here to support you and recommend somebody to you to help you along your journey, and still be a distant participant to make sure that you're getting taken care of. So
don't hesitate to reach out to us. So when we go back to that comment I made about what are your goals? If your goals are equity based, we have data for areas around the country where we can talk about what have been the top 25 vacation counties with highest price gain over the last 5 years. Or we can talk about which ones have the lower cost of entry as far as average sales price over the last 5 years. We can also look at which ones are deemed the most affordable vacation home counties, such as where the expected mortgage payment in that county is less than 10% of what the median family income is. So we can help educate you on what the variable geographies are throughout the United States. But again, it's all going to come back to what are you trying to get at? Are you trying to get the vacation home to take advantage of the rates and you're going to use it periodically but not too often? Are you looking for equity gain where you're going to do something with that equity in about 10 years and maybe roll it into your retirement home at some later date?
Absolutely. And we have a terrific free educational resource that is a business planning guide. I say business planning, but it is, your business, your income, your financial planning. So it's not something that we'd use with a CPA or tax accountant, that type of person, but it's just your own personal expenses, figuring out your budget and figuring out your personal financing so that you can decide if, maybe you're buying your first home, maybe you're buying your second home, maybe you're buying a home in a college town where your kids are going off to at some point. So, that's a good investment, potentially to purchase a home in a college town where your children, maybe one or more, might be going in the future. And that way they can be the anchor that's always there, and then their friends can be roommates, that type of thing, in years to come, and they can sort of manage it for you at a high level. But there's lots of different options. We've seen lots of different things over the years, and we're happy to have a one-on-one appointment with you and talk to you further. This is just a super high level at some of the things we've personally experienced and done with our own, portfolio over the years, but we're here to help. We're happy to send the guide to help you with your planning. So if that's something you're interested in, then definitely let us know. If you're interested in a one-on-one, let us know that as well. The best way to reach us is either by email or phone. My email is stacy@dreamtohome.com. And my phone number is 703-795-3959. And we're here to help. So let us know. And as you think through and dream about what your vacation or your second home might look like, definitely give us a call. We're here to help. So enjoy your weekend, and we look forward to catching up with a lot of you later about your dreams and goals.
Thank you.